The math of compounding. Why your first $100,000 matters more than you think. A 25-year-old and a 35-year-old invest the same amount of money, but one of them ends up with nearly twice the wealth. The difference isn't intelligence, income, or luck. It comes down to one thing: time, and the brutal, beautiful math of compounding. And at the center of this idea is a milestone that quietly changes everything: your first $100,000. Most people assume wealth comes from big wins, high salaries, or perfectly timed investments. But in reality, wealth is built much more quietly than that. It grows through a mathematical force that rewards patience far more than brilliance. That force is compounding. And once you truly understand it, your entire perspective on money begins to shift. Let's break it down simply. Imagine you invest $10,000 and earn a 10% return in 1 year. You now have $11,000. Nothing life-changing yet, but stay with me. In the second year, you don't earn 10% on your original $10,000 anymore. You earn 10% on $11,000. That extra $1,000 you gained is now working for you, too. This is the core idea of compounding. Your money starts making money, and then that money starts making more money. At first, this process feels slow, almost disappointingly slow. It can feel like you're doing everything right, but nothing significant is happening. And if you're being honest, this is the phase where most people start to lose patience. But here's where things get interesting. What you're seeing in the early stages isn't just slow growth. It's the beginning of something much bigger. Because over time, that growth curve starts to bend. And eventually, it accelerates in a way that feels almost unfair. This is what we call exponential growth. And it behaves very differently from the linear growth most people expect. Linear growth adds the same amount over time. Exponential growth multiplies. And when multiplication meets time, the results become powerful. Now here's the part most people underestimate. The early years matter more than the later ones, not emotionally, but mathematically. Because compounding needs time to build momentum. And time is the one thing you can never get back. Let's make this real. Imagine two investors. One starts at age 25, and the other starts at age 35. They both invest $500 a month. They both earn the same 10% annual return. On paper, they're doing the exact same thing. But in reality, their outcomes couldn't be more different. By age 65, the investor who started earlier ends up with significantly more wealth. Not because they invested more each month, but because they gave their money more time to compound. Those extra 10 years didn't just add growth, they multiplied it. They created a foundation that everything else was built on. And this is why starting early is so powerful. Now pause for a second and think about where you are right now. Whether you're just starting or already investing, this next part is what really matters. There's a milestone in investing that people keep coming back to, and it's not random. It's not arbitrary. It's your first $100,000. So why does this number matter so much? Why not $50,000 or $200,000? Because this is the point where the math quietly starts to flip in your favor. When you have $10,000 invested, a 10% return gives you $1,000. When you have $100,000 invested, that same 10% gives you $10,000. The effort is the same, but the outcome is dramatically different. This is where things begin to feel real. Your money is no longer just growing because of your contributions. It's growing because of itself. And this is why the first $100,000 feels so difficult. You're doing most of the heavy lifting. You're saving, budgeting, and staying consistent. Progress feels slow, and sometimes even frustrating. It can feel like you're pushing a heavy wheel that barely moves. But once you reach that milestone, something shifts. That same wheel starts to turn more easily. Your investments begin to generate meaningful growth on their own. And suddenly, you're no longer pushing alone. This is the turning point, the moment where compounding starts working harder than you do. Now let's talk about something subtle, but incredibly powerful. Your rate of return. Imagine two portfolios. One grows at 8% per year, and the other grows at 10%. That difference sounds small, almost negligible. But over 30 or 40 years, it becomes massive. We're talking about the difference between hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars. That's how sensitive compounding is. It magnifies everything over time. Good decisions become great outcomes. Small mistakes become expensive lessons. And consistency becomes your greatest advantage. Now here's a common trap. People wait for the perfect time to start investing. When they earn more, when the market feels safer, when life is more stable. But compounding doesn't reward perfect timing. It rewards time in the market. Every year you delay is a year you can't recover. And those lost years cost more than you think, because they were supposed to be your highest growth years. So what if you start small, but start now? Even modest contributions can grow into something significant, not because the amount is large, but because the time horizon is long. This is the quiet truth behind many successful investors. They didn't rely on luck or perfect timing. They simply started early and stayed consistent. They allowed compounding to do what it does best: grow slowly at first, and then all at once. So here's what all of this really means. Start as early as you can. Stay consistent, even when it feels slow. Focus on reaching that first $100,000, because that's where momentum begins. And most importantly, respect the math. Compounding isn't emotional. It doesn't respond to fear, doubt, or impatience. It only responds to time, consistency, and returns. And if you give it those three things, it will reward you. Maybe not immediately, maybe not even in the next few years, but eventually, in a way that feels almost unfair. Because compounding doesn't look powerful in the beginning. It looks slow, almost broken. But if you stay in the game long enough, it becomes unstoppable. And that's why your first $100,000 matters more than you think. Before we wrap up, here are some practical bonus tips and simple money hacks that can help you reach your first $100,000 faster with less stress and fewer mistakes along the way. One helpful hack is to automate your investing, because the less you rely on motivation, the more consistent you become. Set your investment transfer to happen right after payday, so saving happens before your money gets absorbed by lifestyle spending. Use Raise Investing, where every salary increase, bonus, or side income automatically increases your monthly contribution. Instead of trying to cut every small pleasure, focus first on your biggest expenses like rent, car payments, debt, and subscriptions. A powerful shortcut is to invest your almost purchases, meaning if you decide not to buy something expensive, move that saved amount into your investment account immediately. Keep an emergency fund separate from your investments, so you don't have to sell during bad market conditions. Avoid checking your portfolio too often, because daily price movement can make long-term investing feel more emotional than it really is. Review your investments monthly or quarterly instead, and judge your progress by consistency, not short-term performance. Reinvest dividends automatically, because this turns your investment income into more ownership without extra effort. Use low-cost, diversified investments when possible, because high fees quietly weaken compounding over time. If you feel behind, don't panic invest or chase risky trends. Increase consistency before increasing risk. Track your net worth once a month, because seeing the bigger picture helps you notice progress even when individual investments feel slow. Create milestone goals before $100,000, like $10,000, $25,000, and $50,000, so the journey feels motivating instead of endless. Treat your first $100,000 like a financial foundation, not a finish line, because the real acceleration happens after it. The biggest hack is simple. Start before you feel ready, stay invested longer than feels exciting, and let time do the heavy lifting. If this changed the way you see money, hit like and subscribe, because the more you understand the math, the faster you can make it work for you.